So hello and thank you all for signing on to today's webinar. The title of today's webinar is Harnessing Sustainable Innovation, Empowering Smallholder Farming for Global Food Security. On behalf of Grow Further, I'd like to welcome you all to this virtual event. To kick off today's discussion, it's important to acknowledge that smallholder farmers are responsible for nearly 80% of the world's food security and playing a crucial role in global food security, particularly in developing countries. Yet they face major challenges, including climate change and very limited resources available to them. As the global population grows and the demand for food increases, the need for sustainable solutions and innovative technologies to support smallholder farmers have never been more important. So I am Venkat Pekadaraju, Vice President of Development and your host for the show today at Grow Further, which some of you may know is a Seattle-based nonprofit organization. For those of you that are new to Grow Further, at Grow Further, we bring together farmers, scientists, and individuals to tackle one of the humanity's greatest challenges, ensuring sustainable food production in the face of climate change. Our approach is not just visionary, it's actionable. By harnessing the generous support of individuals and corporate donors, we transform ideas into impact. We fund innovative agriculture research projects that deliver tangible results, including improved family health and nutrition, women empowerment, increased crop yields, enhanced livelihood, and scalable solutions that with the potential to impact millions of lives globally. Our mission extends beyond just funding. We aim to inform and engage public on global food security and urgent need to support and invest in climate-smart agriculture innovation. This event is our ongoing speaker series where thought leaders come together to explore groundbreaking ideas and innovations shaping the future of agriculture and global food security. To stay updated on events like this, we encourage you to sign up for the Grow Further's newsletter. Links to subscribe will be provided in a follow-up email or can be found at growfurther.org. So I encourage you guys to visit our website. Additionally, if you'd like to learn more about Grow Further, please stay on this webinar after our speakers conclude, where Dr. Peter Kelly will discuss our organization and how you can get involved in Grow Further's activities. Today, without further ado, it's my pleasure and honor to welcome two visionary leaders who made remarkable contributions to advancing the sustainable agriculture area. First and foremost, Venkat K. Kishore. Venkat, it's a pleasure and honor to have you on the show, and I welcome you to the show today. Venkat is the Global Head of Smallholders and Sustainability at Bayer. He's a leading agriculture development person with more than 20 years of experience, holding a PhD in crop science and an MBA. His work has focused on improving crops and smallholder farmers' livelihood worldwide, and he has contributed to FFAR, Hunger Free America, IDE, and holds 13 patents and has published 16 research papers, establishing himself as a champion of sustainable agriculture. Welcome, Kishore, one more time. Dr. Peter Kelly, who's our own founder and CEO of Grow Further, blends an academic expertise with practical experience, holding a PhD in agriculture and resource economics from UC Berkeley. He previously served as an assistant professor of economics at Renmin University in Beijing, where he taught and published research on agriculture, international development, and the environment. Through Grow Further, Dr. Kelly empowers farmers, scientists, and individuals to create a food-secure future worldwide. Our discussion today focuses on the transformative potential of climate-smart practices, innovative technologies, and strategies to support smallholder farmers and enhance global food security. Kishore, I'm just going to go to you first, and thank you, like I said, for being here today. As we noted earlier, the smallholder farmers are on the front lines of climate change, facing its impact almost on a daily basis. Could you share more about what your particular observations and explain why climate-smart agriculture practices are essential for addressing significant food insecurity challenges we are confronting globally?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you very much, Venkat, for having me here in this conversation, along with Peter, to talk really about the importance of food security and the importance of innovations, sustainable innovations for smallholders. because smallholders are a large part of guardians of food security in this world, like you mentioned earlier. So if you look at climate change, and climate change is not a phenomena that's going to happen in the future. We're already experiencing climate change in many ways, and the number of natural disasters that are happening and the frequency in which that they're happening are you have seen far more and a lot more frequent than what we have. I mean, even just a few weeks ago, we had the fires in California, in LA, and the freezing temperatures right now here in St. Louis. I mean, these are just some examples of how global warming and climate change is having already an impact on us today. So the basically the food system is under a lot of pressure. And if you think about 2050, we will have another close to 1.5 billion to 2 billion people that we would need to feed. More importantly, actually, just a few days ago, more than 150 Nobel laureates and World Food laureates signed actually a letter calling for transformative innovations, calling for moonshots in agriculture that could help improve these sustainable practices, right? So I'm fully, with that thought process, and I'm fully buying into that. And now bringing in, so those are some of the reasons I would say why it's important that for us to have climate smart ready crops, climate smart ready agricultural practices to help improve food security, right? But from my perspective, again, I think everything starts with the seed, right? And from an agriculture perspective, seed is probably one of the most important investments that the farmer is making. So the more we can invest in innovations that'll help develop climate resilient crops, climate resilient seeds that farmers can use to start, sustainable farming, I think it's going to be, more and more beneficial for us and overall, our food ecosystem so that we can continue to build, not only sustainable ways of farming, but also really to regenerate our soil, improve soil health, and then have a thriving food ecosystem.
Uh, Thank you, Kishore. Now, Peter, in your work with smallholder farmers globally, what are some successful climate smart solutions you have implemented, and what impact have they had on the food production? Could you comment on that?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank both of you for being here. I know and Venkat for hosting. I know you're getting over an illness right now, and is normally a little more enthusiastic than what we're seeing today. A great person to work with. So yeah, climate smart agriculture solutions are everywhere. You actually don't have to work with smallholder farmers in order to see them if you know what you're looking for. You can just drive around rural Asia and see rice fields that are planted to rice that is ready for that is submergence tolerant, drought tolerant, salinity tolerant, and so on. And that is an example of something that has made a significant difference in food security. I've done some research myself on the effects of climate change on rice production, and basically found that the air pollution in Asia, which is also a serious problem, plus the climate change, is worse than the sum of its parts. In terms of solutions that I've been involved in, Grow Further has funded a number of projects that help farmers be more resilient to climate change. We're elevating an indigenous crop, Bambara groundnut, in Ghana, and this crop is ready for climate change. It's also grown by women, highly nutritious, puts nutrients back into the soil. It has a long list of advantages, but there's no there's no commercial varieties available, and we're helping a research institute there to create the first commercial variety. Another approach in Ethiopia, we're supporting research on off-season wheat production, a new irrigated wheat production system that promises to transform Ethiopia from a food insecure country prone to famine into a wheat exporter. In Zimbabwe, we're supporting research on improving millet, which is a naturally climate resilient crop. So lots of you can see successes out there. Our first grants only started a little over a year ago, but very promising results so far. And as Venkat said, we do aim to reach millions of farmers ultimately.
Well, thank you, Peter, for sharing, all these interesting stories and the projects that Grow Further is working in the Africa. I know that Grow Further also has a plan to, initiate some of these projects in other parts of the world, particularly in India. And so it'll be nice to hear from you at some point more details on that. Now going back to Kishore, I know Kishore at the beginning you mentioned about innovative technologies. Could you elaborate on the role of innovative technologies in revolutionizing sustainable agriculture? And looking ahead, what are the potential challenges in the widespread adoption of sustainable agriculture practices?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think let's take a look a little bit, from the history. We think about, I come from the generation that benefited from Green Revolution. I think if for the people on the audience, if you're not familiar with Green Revolution, late 1960s, early 1970s, right? I mean, the Indian subcontinent was on the verge of famine. And if we didn't increase food security in that part of the world, billions would have died. And I probably wouldn't have been here, right? But the innovations that Norman Borlaug and Swaminathan brought into the Indian subcontinent in terms of better yielding varieties, use of fertilizers, use of mechanization, automation, helped improve really the food security a lot. But I think it probably went a little too far, because now if you look at the situation, in those same belts, you see a lot of water deficit in the ground tables. You see a lot of excess use of fertilizer at this point of time, right? So I think now we really need to bring that, pendulum back into the middle, where we got to really figure out how can we, grow more for less, right? How can we make sure that that the production increases, but the input that we are putting in are less? So that means, you really need technologies within the seed that help you, deliver more production, more marketable yield, more water tolerant, right? Water deficit tolerant, disease resistant seeds. So there is a lot of these technologies that you really need within the seed. That's the first piece. The second piece, then I would say, really is around, once you have that, the knowledge, right, on how to best grow these is going to be important. And especially when you think about smallholder growers, where there are millions of growers spread around the world, it's very difficult to get this knowledge in a very accessible, easily understandable way. So for me, digitalization of knowledge transfer is going to be extremely important. So the ability for you and for the growers to actually to say, yep, I have this technology in my hands, I have the seed, this is how best I can grow and get the maximum output out of it, right? So I think that whole knowledge transfer is going to be a key technology that's going to be important as we think about this. Then the third thing, from my perspective, is really the technology around digitalization of agriculture, right? There are tools today which help farmers figure out which is a more productive part of their field and what are the practices they should be putting in that part of the field versus other parts of the field, right? So there are very, very specific prescriptions that you can have with these technologies so that the farmers can actually make a lot more informed decisions in this space. So that's, I think, would be the top three things. But again, I would not just stay in the area of innovation technologies, but I think even simple things that you care about is crop rotations are going to be important moving forward, really, to ensure that soil health. So make sure that you're not growing tomato, 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 but maybe tomato, and then you grow beans, and then maybe you go to tomatoes, right? So I think that's making sure that you're rotating your crops, rotating with maybe a leguminous crop that helps you to improve of the nitrogen fixation in the soil. There's things like that, which I believe are tools that are easy, practical for a farmer, that can help us really improve the sustainability of this overall ecosystem, are going to be very important.
All right, brilliant, brilliant. Thanks for sharing that perspective, Kishore, and also mentioning about the work that Norman Borlaug and Dr. Swaminathan did in 1970s. Literally saved millions of lives, and not just in India, but in Pakistan, Bangladesh, and other neighboring countries, where with the adoption of those new technologies, things went, from famine to feast in few years, and so. It's really, really important to acknowledge those, great work that people have done behind us in the agriculture space. Now, and also thanks to you, Peter, for doing some amazing work at Grow Further, and you've been funding a lot of, innovative, agriculture, projects. Could you share an example where a technology can significantly improve outcomes of smallholder farmers?
Well, I've seen it myself as a small scale grower. When I was a teenager, I had a market garden, primarily growing tomatoes for bulk delivery to restaurants, and I actually made the mistake that VJ was alluding to, of growing tomato, and not rotating my crops. And one of the problems that created was a disease called late blight, which is the same disease that caused the Irish potato famine. And the other big problem that I had as a small scale grower was that the price of tomatoes in the wholesale market was extremely low. And a new variety of tomatoes came along that actually solved both of those problems for me, and basically saved my business and made it profitable. And this was a variety that was both resistant to the late blight, and was a specialty crop that nobody else was growing in the market. It was a golden yellow cherry tomato that at the time was very difficult to find, and no one else in the area was offering. So I can say firsthand how technology can be transformative for a smallholder grower. In terms of things that we've done at Grow Further, everything we do is for the smallholder farmer. And we look to engage those smallholder farmers so that we can ensure that what we're doing is relevant to them. So, for example, this project in Ghana with the Bambara groundnut, it's not just a plant breeding project. It's not just an agricultural extension project. It actually started with a socioeconomic survey where we asked farmers what they want in their Bambara groundnuts, mostly women who grow this. And one of the interesting things that they told the research team is that in northern Ghana, the men's plots tend to get first dibs on the planting equipment, and the women's plots end up getting planted later than optimal and running into the end of the growing season. So something that they really valued was early maturity in their Bambara groundnuts. And now the plant breeders in that project are working on breeding for early maturity, as well as other traits that the farmers valued, doing on-farm trials, working with the farmers, and so on. So that project promises to improve farmers' income. It's a high-value crop. Nutrition. It's high in iron as well as protein, and it's ready for a changing climate. It has a lot of advantages. Just hasn't gotten the research attention that it should. So it'll take a few years before the first commercial variety is released, but we're well on the way, and have been recognized by the State Department in their vision for adapted. We were named as one of the first champions of the State Department's vision for adapted crops and soils program, in recognition of our support for that project in Ghana.
Okay. Excellent. Thanks, Peter. Next question, Kishore. You are a geneticist, I know, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this, and particularly in developing countries where indigenous seed systems is a sort of a concept, practiced by smallholder farmers. And actually, we are also looking at one of those projects where trying to engage with the tribal population that has this indigenous seed concept, but there's also quality issues and stuff like that. But my question is more around how can these indigenous seed systems and biodiversity contribute to sustainable food production and the resilience in smallholder farmer communities?
Yeah. So I think it's very important to understand that genetic diversity is going to be a very important aspect of the entire ecosystem that we're talking about, right? Because we can't just keep having monocropping. We can't have, just the same sort of genetics all along, right? And because what happens in those kinds of situations is like what I think Peter earlier referenced about the potato famine in Ireland, right? The Irish famine, right? So that was because there was a lot of monocrop farming and not a lot of diversity in that material that was being grown. So from my perspective, when I look at indigenous seed systems, right, they are really a great source of diversity that they bring into our cultivated, currently elite pool of genetics that's working. But at the same point of time, not sure really whether if they have all the genes that would help improve productivity, right? It might be resistant to a particular disease, but might not yield as much, right, as your current hybrids that you're working. So what you really need to have is a system that brings these two together. So where you have really a source of a natural diversity through which you can bring in alleles that are bringing in diversity for disease resistance, diversity for climate resilience, diversity, let's say, for heat set, maybe water deficit tolerance, that currently are cultivated and our elite genetics lack. But then, you bring in the yield from the current elite genetics, and then you put both of them together, and then come up with hybrids that really produce this wonderful, I would say, climate resilient and crops where both of them have played an important role in the space, right? So I think it's going to be it's important that we don't just say that it's the indigenous seeds is the way to go, or we just say only the current hybrids is the only way to go, right? I think you need to really bring them together to make it work best for our planet.
That's an excellent point, Kishore. Thank you. Peter, I'm going to switch gears a little bit more about, so I want you to share your comments on how do collaborations, particularly among governments and NGOs, private sector organization, have a role to play in supporting sustainable agriculture, and what role do partnerships play in empowering smallholder farmers? I mean, initially, I mean, they are the beneficiaries, and so can you talk a little bit about, the role of collaboration here?
Yeah. Well, all of these stakeholders play a big role in the agricultural innovation ecosystem. I mean, in the United States, we have a system in land grant universities of teaching, research, and extension slash commercialization. And those are key components of the innovation system worldwide. The farmers tend to be a little slower in adopting new technologies than technologies get adopted in other sectors. And that's in part because of risk aversion, that you don't want something happening to your food supply and your livelihood unless it's been really carefully tested and vetted. And there's also a lot of variation from one year to the next in terms of weather, from one field to the next, or even part of one field to another part of that same field. Agriculture can be quite site specific. So something that works at the research station is not necessarily going to work on the smallholder farm under less than ideal conditions. Smallholder farmers might not have access to capital or other constraints. So there are a variety of reasons that agricultural technologies might get adopted slowly. But in order to ensure adoption of technologies so that they don't just stay in the lab, it's important to work with government agricultural extension services and private companies to help commercialize those technologies. So there are some things that the private sector is very good at for technologies that can be patented. The private sector is good at developing those sorts of technologies. But then there are other things that are very difficult to patent, like crop rotation. And that falls to, those kinds of things tend to fall to government or the or NGOs, sort of broadly speaking NGOs, including universities and research institutes. And a lot of cases, technologies come out of universities and research institutes and then get commercialized by the private sector. So, but government can be conservative in its approach. It's difficult for the taxpayers to tell whether a project failed because the government was corrupt or because they just made their best efforts and it didn't work. So governments are sometimes conservative in their approach to innovation, which is where the nonprofit sector can fill in with some of these more moonshot type projects, or things that government bureaucracy might overlook for one reason or another. And unfortunately, there's only a few major foundations, Gates, Rockefeller, Ford, Hewlett, a couple others, that really provide the vast majority of nonprofit funding for agricultural research. So the Grow Further aims to fill in this gap in the system, where and provide a mechanism for individuals and smaller and medium-sized companies and organizations to get involved in the future of agricultural innovation. We're kind of like a medical research charity in that sense, like taking the medical research charity concept and applying it to agriculture and the future of food security. So we take those donations from a variety of different sources and then invest them in grants to universities and research institutes in developing countries. And the main thing that we look for, we got 700 applications in response to our first grant announcement, and have funded 4 of those so far. So And the main thing that we looked for is the strength of the partnerships in the proposal, because there's a lot of good ideas out there that if farmers were to adopt them would benefit those farmers. But some ideas have a much stronger strategy in terms of collaborating with government extension services, working with private seed companies to commercialize, maybe even working with non-traditional partners like cell phone companies, if it's an app, et cetera. But bringing in those partnerships to really take the ideas to scale and then have impact at scale is actually the main thing that we looked at, and what differentiated the good proposals from the great proposals. So yeah, partnerships are absolutely critical, both in terms of our reason for being as an organization, in terms of filling in gaps in the system, and in terms of the types of projects that we prioritize.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that's great, Peter. I know that we've covered a lot of ground on smallholder farmer challenges, innovation, collaboration. I also want to give the opportunity for our audience to chime in and submit their questions in Q&A. But before we go there, maybe can I request both Kishore and Peter just take a couple of minutes to share your high-level thoughts on or a final message to share to our audience. And in the meanwhile, audience can think about submitting their questions in the chat box, and we'll go straight and after the final thoughts from Kishore and Peter. So Kishore, over to you.
Yeah. So from my perspective, I think when we talk about really smallholder farmers, we started off the conversation clearly stating the importance of smallholder farmers in food security. And then we talked about climate change. If there is one group of people that are impacted the most with climate change, that is this set of people, which is the smallholder farmers. And if we think about our sustainable development goals, the SDG goals for 2030, and then if we look at the number one, which is zero poverty, zero hunger, right? 1 and 2, right? Those are the two goals. You won't be able to really solve for zero poverty or zero hunger unless you really address the challenges that are being faced by smallholder farmers and that are impacted, by climate change. So I think, when we really think about the big picture, there is a lot of funding, there's a lot of climate finance that needs to really come and support in this space to really bring innovations, and basic innovations like what we're talking about here is seeds, technologies that can help improve seeds, practices that can help you, grow your seeds well so that you could produce properly, and then help you regenerate the environment, right, and regenerate nature, and make sure that the soil is healthy so that you leave a better planet while you are feeding the world is going to be critical. So from my perspective, I think creating an environment and the funding for this kind of research needs to be very, very important. But we can't do this alone in this space. I really call this, you got to apply partnerships amongst public sector, private sector, and then I would say philanthropy, right? Because philanthropy is a place where you can take risks, right? You can take risks. I'm not sure, whether if private sector or public sector, they do take risks, but they're always looking at what's the return on investment, right? But when you think about philanthropy, you are really getting in there because you are willing to take that risk, take a different approach to address the problem, to see how you can quickly mitigate the issues and challenges. So from my perspective, innovation is at the core of solving for this. And anything that we can do to support innovation that would reach these smallholder farmers so that we can mitigate climate change, I think, and then help them with sustainable practices would be very, very important and will go a long ways.
Yeah, excellent points, Kishore, and thanks for highlighting the role of philanthropy as well. Peter, as a philanthropist, over to you. Can you provide your high-level comments?
Well, helping smallholder farmers adapt to climate change is a big deal, a key issue in this era, basically. Smallholder farming is and will be for some time the most common occupation on Earth, and even if that is no longer the case at some point, people will still need to eat. And climate change is also one of the biggest issues of our time. And climate change has many effects on society, but one of the biggest and most important is the effect on agriculture. And there are other things that there are many things that we can do in agriculture to reduce the impact of agriculture on the environment. But to some extent, climate change is here, and it's going to get worse no matter what mitigation measures might be taken. So the world needs to adapt to it. And some kinds of climate adaptation are very expensive. Building seawalls and dikes to protect cities from rising sea levels is enormously expensive. The cost of adapting to climate change is going to be in the trillions of dollars. But the cost of adapting smallholder agriculture to climate change is much less than that of some other climate adaptation measures. And things like this project that we're doing in Ghana, it's only a little bit over $100,000 the budget on this project, and it aims to serve it aims to basically create a new standard crop in northern Ghana and beyond, to be grown by hundreds of thousands or millions of farmers. And this is the kind of thing that we call dirt cheap ways of adapting to a changing climate. So climate change is a huge issue. Smallholder farming is incredibly important in the world economy. As I was going around asking various stakeholders whether I should go ahead with my idea of creating Grow Further, one of the stakeholders that I spoke with was a Buddhist agricultural scientist, and he told me that I should go forward with my idea, because not only would I go to nirvana if it succeeded, but I would also have a better second life, because in Buddhism people get reincarnated. And because smallholder farming is the most common occupation on Earth, and this Grow Further concept had the potential to benefit those smallholder farmers at scale, if I had the misfortune of getting reincarnated as a smallholder farmer, then I would have a better second life as well. So. Anyway, that's the type of thing that motivates me and other folks at Grow Further to push on with these projects that help smallholder farmers and society more broadly adapt to a changing climate.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter. I'm just going to go and grab some questions from the chat box and I would encourage people to submit their questions here. In the meanwhile, Kishore, I know that in addition to working at Bayer, you're also in the board of several nonprofit organizations. Can you share some success stories of how smallholder farmers who have transformed their operations using innovative technology adoption?
Yeah. So, one of the most satisfying moments of my career is when you actually see a farmer in the field and they tell you that the variety that you've developed or the technology that you've helped them with has helped them to build a house or has helped them to buy a motorcycle or has
Mhm.
helped them to
Mhm.
send their kids to school or has helped them to pay for the wedding of their son or daughter, right? um, and there have been several moments like that in my career, and I'm just fortunate to be working in this field and fortunate to be working at Bayer, where we have our mission of health for all and hunger for none. Um, and when we interact with farmers in the field, it's a lot of times about our technologies. I've seen farmers actually name their houses or name their kids after the varieties that they have grown, in the field, because that's kind of brought them the prosperity in their lives as well. So from all of my experiences, like so far, have been around really vegetable seeds or corn seeds and cotton and technologies, that have been within them to help improve their productivity. And what we have seen is that a simple a simple invention like an improved variety of a seed can really help improve lives of farmers, right? So there's plenty of examples like that, and lots of stories. I would say I think year before or the year after, I think last year, yeah, I think it was no last year, the year before in 2023, I think, or early 2024. I don't recollect now exactly. I was in Kenya, and I got a chance to meet farmers that were growing really our tomato variety Ansal in the field. And I met this lady, Pure. Her name was Purity, and she
Mm.
started growing Ansal tomatoes, on one acre, 2 acres, and then now she actually grows them on like 10 hectares. She employs actually, uh, you know, 30 to 40 other smallholder farmers on her farm to grow that. And so tomato, this unsold tomato actually is a long shelf life tomato,
Mm.
disease resistance, a high yielding tomato, right? That was originally bred for India, but
Mhm.
then we brought it for the farmers also in Africa, and took
Mm.
off really, really well. And now it's grown in 15 different countries
Wow.
around the globe, and has helped improve lives of millions of farmers, I would say, right? So that's just one example that I can share, very quickly with you. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Kishore. Peter, from your perspective, how would you encourage smallholder farmers to adopt to climate smart agricultures while still preserving their cultural practices?
Well, a lot of what we do at Grow Further is actually elevating indigenous technologies. So we don't have a sort of top-down package of like these are the American practices that you ought to adopt. We solicit ideas from from researchers in country, and towards broad goals like helping farmers adapt to climate change without a lot of limitations around specific crops or specific approaches. And in many cases, those ideas are elevating indigenous crops like Bambara groundnut, like millet. Um, so and or it's a cross between a modern variety and a wild variety. And an example of that is this tomato variety that I grew as a teenager is actually a hybrid between cultivated tomato and a wild tomato. So yeah, a lot of what we do is elevating indigenous technologies. Although we do cutting edge things like AI based apps and so on as well.
Okay. Thank you,
Are
Peter.
you able to see the questions, Venkat?
If they are submitting in the chat, I don't see any of the
They're not
questions.
in the chat. They're in a separate question and answer window.
I am not able to see. I don't have access to it, I guess. Oh, yeah, hang on. There are 15 questions here. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Oh. Okay, so there's, are we trying to solve one problem, synthetically modifying seeds while creating a greater problem, destroying the soil for monocropping, excessive use of fertilizer, herbicide, or pesticides? That was one of the questions.
Yeah, let me take a shot at that one, right? So, I mean, I don't think we're trying to do that, right? And I think there is a clear realization, of that, and that's the reason why we're talking more about sustainability. We are talking about regenerative agriculture, right? How do we really bring that balance back? And a lot of what we are advocating for is, technologically improved seed, but along with it, sustainable practices that can help improve and boost production, but at the same point of time, leave the planet, better than what we found, actually, through regenerative practices, what we're calling as restoring nature.
Okay. So this question may be to you, Peter. Given the critical role that grassroots innovation plays in tackling real-world problems, how might your organization consider creating more pathways to support research and development led by entrepreneurs or community-based innovators? Are there plans to broaden eligibility criteria to provide resource for these groups to scale their impact work?
Mm-hmm. Well, we're planning to expand our programs geographically from Africa into India, and actually our first grant announcement was open to agricultural cooperatives and grassroots NGOs. The grants that we've made to date have all been to universities and research institutes, but they've all been to professors and researchers at those institutes. But we did actually have some finalist proposals that we came close to funding from students and from agricultural cooperatives. And I hope that we have an opportunity to fund some proposals like that in the future that come from more of the grassroots.
Okay. I think this might be Kishore's. There has been much more spending on breeding than on getting improved varieties to smallholders. There's a clear business model for maize. For other crops, what are your thoughts on seed production and sales delivery to poor farmers? Public sector people often think innovation in seed somewhat diffuse, but this doesn't really happen.
Yeah. No, I think corn or maize is a big crop, right? I mean, it's grown on a large number of acres, is a staple, food crop for, both animals as well as humans. So there is a lot of research that goes into it. But then, I've worked in my career a significant part of my time, and I'm still continuing to work in the vegetable space, in the fruits and the vegetable space. And I think as more and more focus goes on into health and nutrition, you will see, that more research also happening in the fruit and vegetable space, because fruits and vegetables are more nutrient-dense crops. And I don't think, a significant portion of the population doesn't really consume the minimum amount of fruits and vegetables that we have been, recommended to do. And primarily for a few reasons. I think one of them is the question already mentions about seed delivery mechanisms, right? So in order for this to work, absolutely, we need to have seed production systems, right? So because you need to be able to scale so that then farmers have access to these seeds, right? And then so I think seed production systems are going to be very, very critical. So it's not just only about innovating and coming up with a new variety, but your ability to actually produce it, scale it, and then bring it in such a way that it is accessible to the farmer where he can actually buy it, right? Is something that's going to be very, very important. And a lot of times, that is a space where people have not invested. So I would certainly say, yep, that's an area which I agree with, that we need to continue to keep looking and figuring out how can we help scale seed production systems, and then also provide access of those improved varieties to those farmers. And this is certainly an area that we should be investing in.
Okay. Thank you, Kishore. Peter, how can people volunteer or participate in community-based agriculture projects to support farmers in their local areas?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, the agricultural innovation sector has not had a lot of volunteer opportunities. Right? So a lot of charitable cause areas, there's like thousands of organizations where a person can donate and volunteer and so on. So for example, in medical research, if you want to support a research on a cure for cancer, you can find a run-a-thon or whatever in pretty much any small town in America. But when it comes to food security, there are food banks and ways to support international food aid and those kinds of shorter term solutions. But if you're interested in longer term solutions, there are unfortunately not very many ways to get involved as a volunteer. And we are working on changing that at Grow Further. Right now, we are basically the only organization that is creating public engagement opportunities where folks from different backgrounds can learn and donate and volunteer for the future of food security. But we would like to have a whole sector of these organizations imitating us the way there is in medical research and numerous other cause areas. So for the time being, there are a number of ways to get involved with Grow Further in particular. You can join us as a member and participate in both public events like this, as well as private events where you hear directly from the researcher and participate in discussions and get more detailed updates and so on. And there are a variety of volunteer opportunities as well, from opportunities for professionals in the field, like being a peer reviewer on projects, to lots of things that do not require any special expertise. We had a high school student from China who made a video about why she became a donor, and then distributed that on social media. So folks from all different backgrounds can find ways to get involved with us.
Yeah. Thanks, Peter. And actually, there was another question which I think you have addressed this, about the question of how individuals can contribute to increasing awareness about, and all of those, approaches that you mentioned could be a great opportunity. If an individual wants to step in, you can become a member at Grow Further, you can be a volunteer, and come and talk to us for more information about, if you're passionate about doing something for agriculture, smallholder farmers, we can offer you that platform. And so, Peter, you addressed that. This question, are there proven CSA practices that have been proven and adopted in Africa? A lot has been said about some of these practices. However, it has never been scaled, which to me implies that they are projects oriented and not meant to create permanent solutions to the existing issues. I don't know. Kishore, do you want to take a shot at it?
Yeah, I mean, I think scaling is always a challenge, correct? And you got to think about why something would not scale. I think if the practices that we are suggesting are not practical, right? That means when I say practical, meaning there is a certain way of working that the farmer does today, and he's ultimately interested in making money, right? Because that's what's going to help him put food on the plates for his family, help him send his kids to school, help them with the prosperity, right? So there's two things that are going to be very important when we talk about sustainable practices. One, it needs to be practical so that the farmers can easily implement them. And two, they need to be profitable, right? They should not be in any way impeding the profit that the farmer is going to be making. You cannot preach sustainability on empty stomachs, right? I think it's very important that in order for anything to scale, that these two aspects are first fulfilled, right? So I think there's a lot of them that have been scaled, as we talked about, right? I mean, crop rotations, a very simple one, trying to be saying that, okay, look, if I grow a leguminous crop, if I grow beans between my two tomatoes, like what the example that we used, well, then it helps me improve the fertility of the soil. So I can apply less nitrogen, that means less input costs, so more profit to the farmer. It helps me diversify my produce, so the risk is diversified, so I cover for a risk for my family. So the rotation itself helps improve soil health. So I think these are certain kinds of things that and very simple examples like what I just stated are going to be very important. And the more you talk about that, and the more you create awareness among the farmers, they will be able to bring it, right? So I think it's really those two important things, and then really bringing that awareness and sharing that information, that's really going to help you scale. So there might be some which have not been scaled, but a lot of stuff has also been scaled, primarily because they went through this kind of a framework.
Right. Good. I think this is more of a comment, maybe, and I agree that improved seeds are easy innovation, but takes time to select proper varieties in terms of agronomic traits, but also nutritional traits. Maintaining nutrition purity of improved seed requires a wet lab analysis or new techniques that are cheap, rapid, and reliable. Absolutely, Monique. I mean, it's not just improving the productivity. How can you improve the nutritional aspect of the food is also very critical. So you bring up a good point there. We are here at the top of the hour here. Maybe I'll take one final question here. Um, um, let's see. What role do cooperative and farmers network play in strengthening the capacity and resilience of smallholder farmers? Peter?
Okay. So this is not something that I have studied directly as an economist. I did study with an agricultural economist who specialized in cooperatives, and they play several roles. Cooperatives can strengthen the market position of farmers both on the input side and on the output side. So when farmers buy collectively, they can get better pricing on their inputs. They can also, when they sell their outputs collectively, they can get better pricing on those outputs. Some other things that cooperatives can do is to support research. In the United States, we have check-off programs where certain crop growers essentially tax themselves in order to support research on that crop. In some countries, agricultural cooperatives are also involved in politics and in lobbying for the interests of their members. So a variety of cooperatives play a big role in supporting farmers, and there's room for further development of cooperatives in many countries.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree with that. Actually, that's the holy grail kind of stuff. If you're looking at farmer producer organizations, what we call them as FPOs, right, are the ones that you start to see slowly, bring in all of those aspects that Peter just described. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Kishore, for chiming in. Yeah, I know we're getting closer towards the session. I want to take a moment here, but audience, please stay here. Don't go yet. I think Peter has a small session after this to talk about Grow Further, and there are a lot of questions that came up. Our audience asking like, how can we be part of it? And so all of those will be addressed in a little bit more detail there. But I want to take a moment here to talk, to thank Dr. Venkata Kishore and Dr. Peter Kelly for their time, expertise, and your work to improve the lives of smallholder farmers and the impact of global food security. Both of you are very passionate about this cause, and it's really great to connect with people with that level of energy and a spirit for smallholder farmers. So I wish you both of you a very great day ahead of you. And with that, we can close the actual webinar session. But for the benefit of those that want to know more about Grow Further, please stay back here. We will have a small briefing session from Dr. Peter Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Yes, thank you.
So maybe, Peter, I'll just give you a quick minute to get a sip of water. But as we mentioned at the start today of this webinar, if you're interested in learning more about our work and how you can get involved, we have many opportunities available at Grow Further. So please do talk to us. Every person's contribution matter, whether it's donating or sharing your time and expertise. So please stay on this call to learn more about Grow Further from Dr. Kelly and how you can get involved. So I think I can open up the floor. If you want to unmute yourself and ask any questions, please feel to do so. So like I said, the founder and the CEO is himself here. So he can give you answers to all your questions. So I will also mention that we will be sending a follow-up email to all the registrants with the information on Grow Further. So please be in lookout of those emails and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to find out more about these sort of virtual events if you would like to be a part of it in future. So yeah, the floor is open for anybody to have any questions, but maybe Peter, do you want to take a few minutes here to describe a little bit more about Grow Further to set the stage here so people can ask questions related to how they can associate themselves?
Yeah. So there are lots of different ways to get involved with Grow Further, depending on where you're coming from. Obviously, if you're an agricultural scientist, we do have grant programs, and in 2025, we're planning to focus on India, and post 2025, those grant programs are likely to be open to other countries as well. To date, we have funded projects in Africa, but in the longer term, we may fund projects beyond Africa and India. And grant announcements will be publicized on our website and in our newsletter. And there are also opportunities for professionals to get involved as peer reviewers and so on. But probably perhaps the most interesting thing that we do as an organization is engaging folks who are not agricultural science professionals. And we have lots of opportunities for both individuals and companies and organizations from different backgrounds to get involved. So individuals can join as members and participate in private events as well as these public events. Meet the scientists, hear from them directly. Volunteer in a variety of capacities. We do provide capacity building to organizations as well as grants. So there may, in some cases, be opportunities to offer your professional skills directly to the grantees. There are lots of opportunities to help get the word out. If you're a high school student in China, like I just mentioned, we've had other volunteers who have done podcasts, who have shared the word with their own networks, and so on. And so there are lots of ways for individuals to get involved. There are also opportunities for companies and organizations to co-fund projects or collaborate in other ways in terms of helping take projects to scale, or engaging employees as volunteers and in educational programs and so forth. So we have quite a few volunteers from different backgrounds and different stages of life. A lot of students, also a lot of retirees. Everything from just donating all the way up to serving on committees or the board. And so there's lots of different ways to get involved. We don't want to be exclusive as far as only engaging people who are from a certain background or have a certain amount of time or money to contribute. So if you're interested in helping us out, come and talk to us, and we will try to find a way to engage that is relevant and meaningful.
Thanks, Peter. Any questions or clarifications? So you can unmute yourself and ask a question to Peter directly, or if you want to submit a Q&A, we can pick up a question from there as well.
Well, we have one question that came in through the Q&A here. It says, I am an agronomist pursuing a Master of Science in Agriculture, implementing projects that are aligned towards income generation through climate-smart agricultural practices. through food security and job creation through green skillings. How can I learn from the existing projects? I am sure I can use the learnings for replication and scale up. So yeah, we do have agricultural science students among our members and donors and volunteers. And well, one thing, there's lots of information about our existing projects on our website. We have a news page that includes updates. And if you join as a member, then you can actually connect with the researchers. And then you can actually connect with the researchers directly and learn about how they have worked with other stakeholders to help replicate and scale up their results. Send to me a link for call for proposal. We don't have any open calls at this moment, but when we do, they will be publicized on the website and in the newsletter.
Hey. So I know there are a few questions I perhaps might have missed. So we will go through this after the webinar, and then we'll try to get back to you in case we haven't addressed those questions. So stay tuned for those. Let's see if any more thoughts come up, or
Yeah, I think we've addressed most of the questions in the Q&A box. One that we didn't get to, I notice here, what innovations besides improved seed varieties can help farmers deal with climate change?
Yeah.
So that's a big question. There's lots of innovations help farmers with climate change because climate change has lots of different effects on agriculture. It obviously increases the variability of precipitation as well as increasing the temperature. So anything that helps crops and livestock adapt to floods and droughts is a climate adaptation strategy, as well as adapting to increased temperatures. Helping crops adapt to salinity is important too, because as sea levels rise, salinity becomes saltwater intrusion and so on becomes an increasing issue. Also, just as CO2 levels rise, in many crops, nutrient levels will go down as carbon dioxide levels rise in the atmosphere. So even a project that may appear to be just about nutrition is actually often, in a sense, a climate adaptation project, because without innovation, you basically get more carbs and less of everything else in many crops as the carbon dioxide levels go up. So in terms of projects that we're doing at Grow Further, an example of one that helps farmers adapt to climate change without producing different seeds is the off-season irrigated wheat project in Ethiopia. The Ethiopian government has recognized that wheat production could be greatly enhanced by developing and optimizing an off-season irrigated wheat production system. But since this system is so new, there's a lot of work to be done in terms of optimizing it for both productivity and water use efficiency. So we are supporting some of the groundbreaking research in that area. And another project is helping farmers in Tanzania and actually throughout East Africa with an AI-based app to identify pests and diseases of maize and common bean. And these pests and diseases, well, they're already a bigger problem in tropical regions than they are in temperate regions. I visited some fields there that were just being devastated by pests and diseases. And as climate change worsens, these pests and diseases are likely to get worse as well. So identifying these at an early stage so that they can be managed more effectively and with fewer chemicals is also a climate adaptation strategy.
Very good. So if there are no further questions, we have exceeded our time limit for this webinar. So we can conclude this webinar today, and thanks to everyone for their active participation and excellent questions. We will be in touch with you with a follow-up email and then other information related to how you can be a part of the Grow Further organization. Thanks a lot, and thank you, Peter.
I thank you, and thank you to everyone who participated in today's webinar.
Bye.
All right. Bye.